I sat in the doctor's waiting room, holding an old phone in my hand, eyes glued to the screen. Outside, the sunlight was beginning to fade, casting a pale yellow light through the window that reflected weakly on the advertisement boards on the wall. When the phone vibrated, I answered without thinking. "Hello, Mom, it's me!" My daughter Lisa's voice came through the phone. But there was something strange about her voice, cold, distant, to the point that I couldn't detect any warmth at all. "Mom, we're going to Europe tomorrow," she said. "I've sold the beach inn in your car. We need the money. Goodbye." My daughter's words stunned me like a bucket of cold water being thrown in my face. A simple goodbye, so indifferent that I couldn't believe it came from my daughter. After 45 years of raising her, sacrificing everything for her, now she treated me like this? The feeling of being discarded made my heart feel like it was being squeezed. But then I took a deep breath and forced a weak smile. There was one thing my daughter didn't know. My name is Angela Brooks, and I am 71 years old. And until now, I thought I understood my daughter better than anyone. But now I realize I didn't understand her at all.
Just 6 months ago, I lost my husband, William. He passed away suddenly while we were having breakfast, just like every other morning over the 45 years we had been together. That day, he made me a cup of coffee with cream and some toast. As usual, he kissed me on the forehead and said, "Good morning, my love." And those were the last words he ever said to me. After his death, I drowned in a deep sadness, and from that point, Lisa appeared more often in my life. She visited 3 times a week, helped me prepare for the funeral, took me shopping. She even urged me to get a health checkup, saying I needed to take care of myself now that William wasn't around. "You need to take care of yourself more now, Mom," Lisa would often say with a smile, which I thought was born out of love. But now I realize it was just convenience. The beach inn we had was where William and I built so many beautiful memories. We bought it when Lisa was 15, and we spent many summers there, celebrating birthdays, Christmas, anniversaries. Lisa brought her boyfriend and later her husband, Edward, there. As for me, I cooked, cleaned, and did the laundry. We lived like that for years, but I never thought that Lisa would treat it like a commodity to sell. The old Ford truck that William had taken care of like his own child. Every Sunday he changed the oil, washed the truck, then parked it under a fixed spot beneath the tree. Lisa knew how much that truck meant to me. It was the last keepsake of William, and now she'd sold it without a thought, for the memories attached. When the call ended, I sat there on the green plastic chair in the clinic, surrounded by other patients who were worried about their health. But in that moment, I didn't cry. The strange feeling of calmness took over me. Not pain, but a serenity I had never felt before. Because in that moment, I suddenly remembered something I had completely forgotten. 3 days before William passed away, he gave me a manila envelope. "Angela," he said, "keep it in your drawer. If anything happens to me, open it when you feel ready, but only when you feel prepared." At the time, I had placed the envelope in the drawer without much thought. After the funeral, I focused on the pain and the tasks I needed to do, and I accidentally forgot about his words. But now I remembered. The envelope was still there, at home, waiting for me. The nurse's call broke my thoughts. I stood up and went into the exam room. The doctor checked my health, said that I was still in good health for my age, just needed to rest and eat better. I nodded and smiled, but my mind was elsewhere. I no longer cared about the doctor's advice. In my head, all I could think about was William's envelope, Lisa's cold voice, and Edward, her husband, whom I had always felt indifferent toward. Leaving the clinic, I slowly walked to the bus stop. My car was gone, as Lisa had said. But as I stood there, I couldn't stop smiling. Because one thing I was sure of, my daughter thought she had discarded me. But what she didn't know was that I still had something she couldn't take away, the plan of William. I arrived home, my mind a whirlwind of thoughts, the house as silent as my current state of mind. Everything was the same, nothing had changed.
but I couldn't return to how things were before. I placed my handbag on the table and walked straight into the bedroom, the room William and I had shared for so many years. Sitting on the bed, I looked around the familiar room. Everything was just as it was when William was still alive. An armchair by the window, where he often sat to read in the afternoons. A small table next to the bed with a few old family photos. I opened the drawer where the manila envelope had been kept. It lay there, still, like everything I had forgotten, just waiting for the moment I was ready to open it. My hands trembled slightly as I took it, feeling like it was an item of value that I couldn't fully comprehend. My fingers brushed over the familiar handwriting on the envelope. Antonia, written by William's hand, neat and careful. A pang of sorrow rose in my chest as I saw those characters. I opened the envelope and began flipping through the papers inside.
There were legal documents, property certificates, bank statements, and even a handwritten letter from William. I gasped, reading his familiar words, which made me choke up. Dearest Antonia, if you are reading this letter, it means that I am no longer with you. Forgive me for not telling you everything over the years, but I just wanted to protect you from worry. Over the years, I invested our savings in real estate and businesses. We don't just have the Beach Inn, we own 6 other properties, including the apartment building where Lisa and Edward live. I also have shares in 3 highly valuable companies that you can't even imagine. You are a wealthy woman, Antonia. You've always been wealthy, but now you have it all on paper. I felt like I had been thrown into an emotional storm, a fortune I had never known about. The documents proved that we owned not only the Beach Inn, but also several other properties, an apartment building, and even shares in major companies. William, the man I thought had only been a bus driver for 40 years, was actually a savvy investor.
Tears welled up in my eyes, but I didn't cry. I just sat there, reading William's letter over and over, every sentence, every word digging deep into my mind. He had shielded me from all the financial pressures, kept me from knowing about these assets because he didn't want me to worry about money, and he didn't want Lisa to know the true financial situation of our family. I paused for a moment, reflecting on the last line of William's letter. Our daughter, Antonia, if she knew we were wealthy, her attitude would certainly change. I want her to love us for who we are, not for the money. Those words weighed heavily on my heart. Lisa, she knew nothing about all of this. She thought I had nothing, and now she was treating those assets like things to be sold for cash. Everything was so ironic. I set the documents down and reached for a handkerchief to wipe away the tear that had just rolled down my cheek. It wasn't because it was sad. It was because I realized that all I needed now was time and careful planning. I didn't want to be weak. I didn't want Lisa to see me as a woman who couldn't stand up for herself. As I stood up and left the bedroom, the doorbell rang. Another call. I immediately knew it was from Lawyer Peterson. He had been the one to help us with the legal matters after William's death. He always told me to call him if I needed help, and now I had a task to complete. Hello, Mrs. Brooks. I've received the documents you sent. I think we should meet to discuss these properties in detail. His voice was gentle but clear. Of course, Mr. Peterson, I replied, feeling a cold rush run through me at the thought of the upcoming meeting. I'll come to see you. After the call ended, I looked back at the documents on the table. I didn't know exactly what I was going to do, but I was certain of one thing. Lisa would have to face the consequences of her decisions. And I, with all the patience of a mother, would be the one to teach her a lesson she would never forget.
The next day, I put on the wine red dress that William always complimented me on, saying it made me look so elegant. I tied my hair up and applied a light touch of makeup. Looking into the mirror, I no longer saw the weak woman that Lisa thought I was. I saw a mother who had lost everything, but now had something my daughter couldn't take away: control. I went outside and took a taxi to Mr. Peterson's office.
It felt like I was walking into a battle I had never been mentally prepared for. But when I thought about what Lisa had done, I felt a strange strength rising within me. She had discarded me, sold everything I cherished, all for a trip to Europe. But I wasn't just going to get back what I had lost. I was going to show her that her actions would not go without consequences. When I arrived at Mr. Peterson's office, I felt a strange sense of reassurance. His office wasn't large, but it was very elegant, with large glass windows letting in natural light, making the air feel less stuffy. Mr. Peterson stood up and extended his hand to greet me. After I sat down, he began going through the documents. As I said, you are the rightful owner of these properties. The sale of the Beach Inn was an illegal transaction, and I've started the procedure to restore your ownership. I listened without feeling any anxiety. Good, Mr. Peterson. I don't want to make a scene. I want everything to remain discreet until I'm ready. So, what do you want to do about Lisa? He looked at me seriously, as though he understood everything, but still wanted to hear it from my mouth. I didn't respond immediately, but thought for a moment. I couldn't hurt Lisa, but I couldn't let her off the hook for the damage she'd caused either. Keep everything quiet, at least until I'm ready, I said, my voice firmer than before. I won't let her take everything without consequences. As I left the office, I felt an odd sense of relief. It was as though I had freed a part of myself. I was no longer the forgotten mother, no longer the weak woman unable to take care of herself. I knew I had done the right thing. A few days later, when I returned home, I saw Lisa standing outside the door, holding a handbag, her face full of exhaustion and worry. She had returned, and I could feel something was changing in her. But had she recognized the change in herself? Did she understand that what she was facing was the result of her own actions? What she was facing was the result of her own actions? I need to talk to you, Mom, Lisa said, her voice softer than before, no longer filled with anger or coldness. It was the first time I heard a desire for understanding in her voice. I didn't respond, merely silently invited her in. We sat down at the old dining table, where we used to have dinner every night when William was still alive. The silence was so thick, I could hear the ticking of the clock on the wall. Lisa looked at me hesitantly, as if she was waiting for some kind of reaction from me. Mom, I'm sorry, Lisa said, not looking at me, but staring at her hands as if the words were too hard to say. I know I treated you badly. I didn't know what I was doing, but now I realize I was wrong. I sat there quietly, but not because I didn't know what to say. I just wanted to see how far she would go with this apology. She needed to learn how to admit her mistakes, and I couldn't just forgive her easily. Not yet.
So what now? I said in a flat tone. Do you think I'll just embrace you and forgive everything? You took away the most important things to me. Sold a Beach Inn and William's truck without hesitation. Do you think everything will just go back to the way it was? Lisa looked up at me, her eyes wet with tears, but I didn't see sorrow in them, only fear. She was scared of something she had never had to face before. The truth. The truth about what she had done. I don't know what to do now, Lisa whispered. I don't know what else I can do to make things right. I sat silently, watching her, not saying a word. The truth was, I had a plan I wasn't ready to share. Lisa would have to learn how to fix these mistakes on her own, and I wouldn't save her as easily as she expected.
The days passed slowly after that conversation with Lisa. She stayed at the house, but the tension between us was palpable. It wasn't the same as before. The warmth we once shared had dissipated, replaced by a sense of uncertainty and distance. I could tell she was trying to be more considerate, but the damage was done. She had taken so much from me without even blinking, and now she was left with nothing except for the shattered pieces of her own life. I couldn't help but watch her more closely, observing her every move. There was a time when I would have found comfort in her presence, but now everything felt different. She seemed lost, as if she were trying to find herself again, but unable to figure out where to start. One morning, I sat in the living room, the house feeling more empty than it ever had before. Lisa had gone out, probably trying to figure out how to deal with the mess she was in. The air in the house was heavy, like the calm before a storm.
I wasn't sure what was coming, but I could feel it. A reckoning of sorts, waiting just around the corner.
As I sipped my tea, I couldn't help but reflect on everything that had led to this moment. William had always been the strong one, the one who took care of everything. I'd followed his lead, never questioning the decisions he made, never knowing just how much he had shielded me from. Now, the weight of everything was on my shoulders, and for the first time in my life, I was the one in control. It was then that I received a call from Mr. Peterson. He'd been handling all of William's affairs since his passing, and I knew that whatever news he had was crucial to my next move. "Mrs. Brooks, I've managed to get the paperwork started for the return of the beach house," he said. "It's a complex process, but we're on track. I should have more details for you soon." I felt a surge of satisfaction, but it was a quiet victory. There was no joy in this. It wasn't about the house or the money. It was about regaining my dignity, about making Lisa realize that everything she thought she could take from me was never truly hers to begin with. "Thank you, Mr. Peterson. Just keep me informed. I need to make sure everything is handled discreetly," I replied, my voice calm and collected, masking the fire that was slowly building within me. "Of course, Mrs. Brooks. I'll proceed as planned."
The following weeks were a strange mix of waiting and quiet observation. I stayed at the house, living like I always had, but now with a different mindset. I continued to visit the market, have coffee with the neighbors, and go through the motions of daily life. But inside, I was planning. Lisa still came by, though less frequently. She would linger in the kitchen, make small talk, and help around the house, like she was trying to make up for what she had done, though the effort seemed half-hearted. She'd often ask me how I was doing, her voice tinged with concern, but I could hear the underlying uncertainty in it. I began to wonder, was she truly remorseful, or was this just another part of her attempt to win my favor? She was smart enough to know that she had a lot to make up for, but I wasn't about to let her off the hook that easily. One afternoon, I decided to take a walk through the neighborhood. It had always been a routine of mine, something I did to clear my head. But this time, I found myself walking slower, reflecting more deeply on everything that had happened. The neighborhood hadn't changed. The old houses, the familiar faces of the people who greeted me as I passed by, all of it was the same. But I wasn't the same. I couldn't help but feel like an outsider looking in at a life that no longer belonged to me. I passed by Aurora's house, the neighbor I had known for years. She was outside watering her plants and smiled when she saw me. "Antonia, dear, how have you been?" she asked, her voice laced with that familiar, gentle concern. Aurora had always been kind, but today I sensed something more in her tone. There was an undercurrent of pity, though she didn't say it outright. "I'm doing well, Aurora," I replied, forcing a smile. "Just adjusting." Aurora paused, looking me over with a kind of knowing look that only someone who had known you for decades could give. "Is everything all right with Lisa? I hear she's back from Europe. I saw her walking by the other day and she looked different." I nodded, the weight of Aurora's words hanging between us. "She's learning," I said, the words carrying more truth than I expected. "I hope she understands what she's done. But some lessons take time." Aurora looked at me with a mixture of sympathy and understanding. "I hope so, Antonia. You deserve so much better than this." "Thank you, Aurora," I said before walking away. The conversation lingered in my mind. Had I been too harsh on Lisa? Was I really doing the right thing by letting her struggle like this? I couldn't help but wonder if I should step in and ease her pain. But no, not yet. That evening, I sat at the kitchen table, my thoughts swirling. I hadn't spoken to Lisa much that day, but I had the feeling that she was on the brink of something, a breaking point, perhaps. She had been quiet lately, retreating into herself more than usual. I had a strange sense that she was about to come to some kind of realization, though I didn't know what it would be.
I couldn't let her back in too soon. I needed her to feel the weight of her actions. She needed to understand the consequences of what she'd done, not just to me, but to herself. As I sat there, I realized that this wasn't just about getting back what was rightfully mine. It was about teaching Lisa what it meant to truly respect someone, to understand the value of family, of love, and of sacrifice. She hadn't learned those lessons yet, and I would make sure she did. The phone rang again that night, and when I picked it up, it was Mr. Peterson. Mrs. Brooks, I have an update for you. The sale of the beach house has been nullified, the buyers are fully refunded, and everything is back in your name. I felt a sense of calm wash over me. The first step was complete. Good. I expect everything else to go smoothly. It will, he assured me. We're proceeding with the other properties now. Just give it a little more time. I hung up the phone, my heart racing. The plan was in motion. Everything was falling into place. And soon, Lisa would realize that she had underestimated me. But for now, I waited.
The first time I saw Lisa after her return was when she stood in front of the door, suitcase in hand, her eyes tired and defeated. Her once confident stride had been replaced by hesitation, and I could tell she wasn't the same woman who had left for Europe just a few months ago. She looked thinner, worn out, and there was a vulnerability in her expression that I hadn't seen before. It was a strange moment. Part of me wanted to feel sympathy for her, but then I remembered the coldness in her voice during that phone call, the way she had dismissed me as if I were nothing more than an inconvenience. No, she needed to learn more than just how to apologize. She needed to learn that actions have consequences, and that people can't just walk away from everything they've done. "Mom," she said softly, her voice cracking slightly as she stepped inside, "I need to talk to you." I looked at her, trying to gauge what she wanted. I wasn't sure if she was here out of genuine regret, or if it was simply a desperate attempt to salvage what was left of her life.
"Come in," I replied, stepping aside. She entered quietly, not meeting my eyes, the same way she used to when she was a child, embarrassed by something she had done wrong. We sat at the kitchen table, just like we used to, the space between us now thick with unspoken words. I watched her as she fidgeted with her hands, struggling to find the right thing to say. I don't know how to start," Lisa admitted, her voice apparently above a whisper. "I'm so sorry, Mom, for everything, for how I treated you. I didn't understand. I didn't understand how much I was hurting you." Her words were sincere, but I couldn't help but wonder, was this real? Or was it just another attempt to get back in my good graces? I had to be careful. I had already seen her go from warmth to indifference, from affection to betrayal. I wasn't sure if I could trust her yet. "Lisa," I said, my voice calm but firm, "I don't know if you fully understand the damage you've caused. You didn't just take my things. You took my dignity. You sold the house where we built our memories. You sold the truck William loved so much, like it was nothing." Her eyes filled with tears, and for a moment I saw the young girl I once knew, the one who would cry over a broken toy, the one who needed comfort from me when she was hurt. But now it was different. She was an adult, and the world she had built for herself had crumbled around her. "I never meant for it to happen like this," she said, her voice trembling. "I thought it was just a quick fix, you know? I didn't realize. I didn't think about what it would do to you." I leaned back in my chair, crossing my arms. "And now that you're back, what do you expect me to do, Lisa? What do you want from me?" She hesitated, looking down at her hands. "I don't know. I need help. I don't know how to fix things. I don't know how to fix what I did to you, to myself." I felt a sharp pang in my chest. This wasn't the daughter I had raised. This was a woman who had been broken by her own choices. It was painful to watch, but I couldn't help her by simply giving in. I had to let her see the full scope of her actions. "You think money will fix everything, don't you? You think that because you're back now, I'll just forgive you, give you everything you want, and we'll go back to being a happy family. But it doesn't work like that." She swallowed hard, her face flushing with embarrassment. "I don't want everything to go back to how it was. I don't know what to do. Edward left me, and now I don't know who I am anymore." The name Edward hung in the air like a cloud of smoke.
I had always known something was off about him, but I never imagined he would be the catalyst for Lisa's downfall. He had taken everything from her, just as he had taken everything from me. But unlike Lisa, I had the strength to face it head on. She hadn't learned that lesson yet. "I know you're hurt," I said, my tone softening just slightly, "but I can't solve your problems for you, Lisa. You have to fix them yourself. And that starts with understanding what you've done." She nodded slowly, as if the weight of her actions was beginning to settle in, but I wasn't convinced she truly understood yet. She had a long way to go.
I'm not asking for forgiveness right now. I just need time. Time to make things right.
Time. That was something I had in abundance. Time to watch her, time to observe her actions, and time to decide if she was truly worthy of forgiveness. But not yet. Later that evening, I sat by the window, watching the lights of the city flicker in the distance. I didn't feel any relief, but there was something new stirring inside me. A sense of power. Lisa had no idea what was coming. She thought her return meant things would go back to normal. But she hadn't learned yet what it meant to truly earn forgiveness. I was letting her struggle because I wanted her to understand. This wasn't just about money or possessions. It was about respect, responsibility, and love, things she had taken for granted. But now she had to fight for them. The next morning, I got a call from Mr. Peterson. "Mrs. Brooks, the beach house is officially back in your name. All the paperwork has been completed."
Good, I replied, my voice steady. What about the other properties? We're still working through them, but things are moving smoothly. It won't be long. I felt a wave of satisfaction. Everything was moving according to plan. Lisa had no idea that even now, I was silently regaining everything she thought she had taken. But this was more than just about real estate. It was about teaching her the value of everything she had once discarded. Later that day, as I sat in the kitchen with a cup of tea, Lisa came in, her expression hesitant but determined. She had made up her mind about something. "Mom," she said, looking me directly in the eye, "I've been thinking a lot about everything. About what you said. I know I can't just expect you to forgive me without earning it, and I'm ready to start making things right. I'm going to get a job. I'm going to pay you back for what I've done." I looked at her, surprised by the sincerity in her voice. Maybe this was the start of something. Maybe, just maybe, she was finally ready to learn. "You don't need to pay me back, Lisa," I said, my voice soft but firm. "But you need to start taking responsibility for your actions. That's the first step." She nodded, a look of determination in her eyes that hadn't been there before. It was a small victory, but one that felt like progress. As she left the room, I sat there thinking about everything that had happened. Lisa had taken her first step toward redemption, but there was still much to be done. I wasn't going to make it easy for her. She had to learn, and I was going to make sure of it.
The days dragged on after Lisa's return, and though she seemed more sincere in her efforts, I couldn't shake the feeling that she was still missing something important. Her actions showed the beginning of remorse, but I knew it wasn't enough. I needed her to face the truth, not just about what she'd done to me, but about how her choices had changed the trajectory of her life. Every time I saw her, I noticed little changes. She'd come into the kitchen and start making dinner, just like she used to, but now with a certain wariness, as though she was looking for approval. She'd try to help around the house, doing small tasks that William had once done, and sometimes she'd even ask me if I was okay, but there was still that sense of distance between us. It wasn't enough. Not yet. She hadn't truly understood the depth of what she had lost, not just in terms of material things, but in trust, in love, and in family.
One evening, after a long, quiet day, the phone rang. It was Mr. Peterson. I braced myself for the news. "Mrs. Brooks, I have some important updates for you," he said. "The process is moving along faster than expected. The fraudulent sale of your beach house has been completely nullified, and the buyers have already been reimbursed. I'll have the finalized documents by tomorrow." I could feel the tension in my shoulders ease just a little. This was a victory, but not just one for me. It was one for William's legacy, for everything we had built together. That's good to hear, I replied, keeping my tone calm. And what about the other properties? The tangle of paperwork has been sorted out, and the building where Lisa and Redwood live is officially back in your name, too. We are in the final stages of securing full control of all the assets, but I need to remind you that this will take a little more time. You should be prepared for any complications that may arise. I understand. Keep me updated, I said, before ending the call. The thought of Lisa's confusion when she learned about the building, her home, the place she had taken for granted, made my stomach twist. But she deserved to know. She deserved to understand the full scope of her actions. The next day, I called her into the living room. She had been quieter than usual, almost avoiding me when we crossed paths in the house. It was time to confront her, to finally give her a glimpse of the truth she thought she knew. Lisa, I began, my voice steady, there's something you need to understand. You've been under the impression that we had nothing left, but that was never true. William planned ahead. We always had more than you thought. The house, the car, they weren't just things. They were part of something much larger. Her eyes widened, and she slowly sat down across from me, her body language stiff. What do you mean? She asked, though I could see the flicker of realization in her eyes. I took a deep breath, then reached for the folder on the coffee table. Inside were the legal documents, the deeds to the properties, the bank statements, all of it laid out in front of her. William invested our savings into properties, businesses, and assets that were meant for our future. All these years, he protected me from the weight of our financial situation. You don't even know the full extent of it. Lisa stared at the papers, then at me, as if trying to process the information. Wait, so you mean I didn't sell everything? That house, the car, that was just part of something else? Exactly, I said. You thought you were getting rid of everything we had, but you didn't even scratch the surface. William's investments have kept us more than comfortable. You were living in a lie. Her hands trembled as she reached for the papers, flipping through them quickly. The realization dawned on her in stages: shock, disbelief, confusion, and finally understanding. But how could you not tell me? She whispered, almost as if she were speaking to herself. How could you let me think that we had nothing? It wasn't my choice to hide it, Lisa. William made that decision because he didn't want you to treat us any differently. He didn't want you to love him, or me, for what we had, but for who we were. She bit her lip, staring at the documents without speaking for a long time. I could feel her regret growing, but it was mixed with something else. Anger, resentment, or maybe guilt for being so blind all these years. I couldn't tell. Finally, she looked up at me, her face pale. So you knew all this time, and you didn't tell me? I didn't know until recently, Lisa, I said quietly, and even now, I'm not sure I should have told you. You had to learn on your own what matters in life. It's not the things we own, but the people we love, and how we treat them. Her voice cracked. I thought I was helping you. I thought I was doing what was best for us. You thought you were helping yourself. And in doing so, you destroyed the very thing we had. Our family. Our trust. Lisa's eyes filled with tears, but she quickly wiped them away, trying to hold it together. I never realized what I had until it was gone. I stayed silent, letting her words sink in. I knew she had more to say, but I wasn't going to rush her. She had to come to the full understanding herself. She nodded, her eyes filled with a mixture of gratitude and guilt. I will. I promise. It wasn't the perfect apology. It wasn't everything I had hoped for, but it was a start. And in that moment, I felt something I hadn't in months, a flicker of hope. Later that night, after dinner, I walked to the porch and sat in the rocking chair that William used to love. The stars above shone brightly, just like they had on so many nights before. I thought about William, about how he had always known how to protect us, how to provide for us without making us feel burdened by it. Now it was my turn. I had to teach Lisa how to stand on her own, just as William had always silently taught me. The following days brought small changes.
Lisa, once so self-assured in her recklessness, now moved through the house with a quiet determination. She started going out more, looking for work, applying herself in ways I hadn't seen in years. But as much as I wanted to believe this was genuine, I knew better than to expect things to be resolved so easily. She was still the same person who sold my house without a second thought, and it would take more than a few job applications to make amends for that. One evening, after dinner, she came to me with a serious look in her eyes. I could see the uncertainty written all over her face as she sat down across from me at the table. "Mom, I've been thinking. I found a part-time job cleaning offices at night," she said, nervously twisting her fingers together. "I know it's not much, but it's something I want to contribute. I need to show you that I'm serious about changing." I looked at her, surprised by the choice she had made. A part-time job, cleaning offices? It was a far cry from the luxury lifestyle she had been accustomed to. But for the first time, I saw a flicker of true humility in her eyes. She was starting to understand the value of hard work.
I'm proud of you, Lisa, I said quietly, nodding. But this is only the beginning. You have to understand that earning back trust and respect takes time. It's not something you can buy back with a job or money. She nodded, her expression one of quiet resolve. I know, Mom. I don't expect things to go back to how they were. I just need time to prove myself. Time is something I can give you, I replied, my voice softening. But remember, actions speak louder than words. The next few weeks followed a similar pattern. Lisa would go to work at night and sleep during the day. I could tell it was hard for her. She was exhausted, both physically and emotionally. But she kept at it. Slowly, I began to see glimpses of the woman I hoped she could become. She started to care more about the little things. She helped me around the house without me asking. She started to call more often just to check in, even when she wasn't at the house. Still, I knew this wasn't enough. There was more to do. Lisa had to learn not just about responsibility, but also about compassion and empathy. I had seen glimpses of the person she could be, but I needed her to understand that true growth didn't come from doing what was expected. It came from taking ownership of one's mistakes without making excuses and doing the hard work to fix them. One evening, as I was sitting in the kitchen, sipping my tea, Lisa came in, looking different. There was a tiredness in her eyes, but also something else, something new. "Mom," she started, her voice quieter than usual. "I know I'm not the same person I was before. I've been working hard, and it feels like I'm getting nowhere." But I looked up at her, signaling for her to continue. "I've been talking to some of the women I work with. They have all these stories, about struggles with money, with life. Some of them are living paycheck to paycheck. I never realized how many people are in situations like mine. And," she paused, her voice breaking slightly. "I feel like I could do more, I feel like I should be doing more than just paying back what I took from you." I put my cup down and looked at her carefully. "What are you thinking, Lisa?" "I want to help," she said, her voice steadier now. "I want to use what I've learned to help other women who are struggling. I don't know how yet, but I'm going to figure it out. I don't want to just be the person who made mistakes. I want to be someone who makes a difference." It was a surprising shift, one I hadn't expected. Lisa had always been someone who took, never gave. To hear her speak with such conviction, to hear her want to help others, was a revelation. "That's a big decision," I said quietly, "but it's a good one. Helping others isn't just about throwing money at problems. It's about making an impact in people's lives. If you really want to do this, you'll need to commit yourself to it." "I will," she said, her eyes filled with determination. "I'm going to start looking for volunteer opportunities. I think I want to work with women who've been through financial abuse or domestic violence. I've seen it at work, and I know there's so much more I can do." I nodded slowly, feeling a weight lift off my chest. This was the Lisa I had been waiting for, the one who finally understood the value of giving, of sharing, of truly living in a way that didn't rely on the material. "You're on the right path," I said, the words coming easier now. "Just remember, it's a journey. There's no going back.
But if you're truly committed to this, I believe you'll get there. A few days later, I went to Mr. Peterson's office. The final steps in the legal process were almost complete, and it was time to take action. I didn't know what exactly I was going to do yet, but I had a feeling that now was the moment. Lisa was beginning to see the consequences of her actions, but there was still more to teach her. As I sat across from Mr. Peterson, I spoke with clarity. I want to make sure everything is in place, I said. But I also want to make sure that Lisa doesn't know everything yet. I want her to have the opportunity to prove herself without the temptation of taking the easy way out. We can't let her think that everything is just going to fall into place because she's sorry. Mr. Peterson nodded. Of course, Mrs. Brooks. We'll keep everything under wraps. But once she's truly made amends, then we can move forward. Exactly, I replied. We'll wait for the right moment. The following weeks felt like a delicate dance, watching Lisa, allowing her the space to grow, while still keeping my guard up. She continued her job, but now there was a new sense of purpose in her. She came home late some nights, tired but fulfilled, and I could see that something was changing in her. One evening, Lisa came to me after finishing her shift. She was still in her work clothes, hair messy from a long night, but there was something in her eyes that was different. I signed up for a volunteer position at the women's shelter, she said, her voice full of excitement. I'm going to be helping women who need guidance, just like I did. I don't know where it's going to take me, but I think this is what I'm supposed to be doing. I smiled, for the first time in a long while, genuinely proud of her. I'm proud of you, Lisa. This is the right step. She walked over to me and hugged me, a long, tight hug. For the first time, I didn't feel like I was just holding on to a daughter who had wronged me. I felt like I was holding on to a woman who had finally found her way back to herself. As the days went on, the tension between us began to dissolve. Lisa was no longer the woman who had thrown me aside for the sake of her own desires. She was becoming someone stronger, more self-aware, and, most importantly, someone who valued the relationship she had once taken for granted.
The weeks passed, and Lisa's transformation became more apparent. I could see it in the way she spoke to me, in her newfound commitment to the women's shelter, and even in the little things she did around the house without being asked. She was still tired from her part-time job, but there was a different kind of tiredness now, one born from hard work, from finding her place in the world again. It wasn't perfect, but it was progress, and for the first time in months, I felt a quiet hope that maybe, just maybe, she could become the woman William and I had always hoped she would be. She had a long road ahead, but she was finally walking down it with intention, and that was all I could ask for. One evening, as I was sitting on the porch, watching the sunset over the ocean, Lisa came outside, carrying a cup of tea. She handed it to me and sat down beside me in the rocking chair that William used to occupy. For a moment, we both just sat there in silence, listening to the sound of the waves crashing on the shore. "Mom," she started, her voice soft but steady. "I've been thinking about everything lately. About what you said when I first came back. You were right. I couldn't fix things by just saying sorry, and I couldn't fix them by throwing money at the problems. It's been harder than I thought, but I finally get it. It's about doing the work, not just for you, but for me, for my own future." I turned to look at her, surprised by the maturity in her words. She had come so far, and in this moment, I realized that this wasn't just about me anymore. This was about her learning to be responsible for her life, her choices, and her future. "I'm glad you understand," I said quietly, a hint of emotion creeping into my voice. "It's never easy, but the work is worth it. And I've always believed you had it in you, Lisa. You just needed to see it for yourself." Lisa nodded, her gaze fixed on the horizon. I never understood what that meant before, doing the work. I always thought things would just come easy, that I could get whatever I wanted if I just tried hard enough. But life's not like that, and I've learned that the hard way. She paused, her eyes softening as she looked at me.
I know I hurt you, Mom. And I know I can never truly make up for what I did. But I want you to know that I'm not just doing this for you. I'm doing it for myself. I need to prove to myself that I can be the person I should have been all along. I felt my heart soften as I listened to her. She was still my daughter, the same girl who had hurt me so deeply, but she was becoming someone stronger, someone I could finally respect again. You don't have to prove anything to me, Lisa, I said, my voice thick with emotion. What matters is that you found your way back, and I can see that you're doing it for the right reasons now. Lisa reached over and took my hand, her grip warm and firm. I'm not asking for forgiveness anymore, Mom, but I hope someday you will be able to forgive me for all of it. I squeezed her hand, my heart full of quiet pride. I already have, Lisa, but you need to forgive yourself first. That's the hardest part.
The next few days were filled with more conversations like this. Quiet, reflective moments where Lisa opened up more than she ever had before. I could see the weight lifting off her shoulders little by little. She wasn't the same person who had left me behind in the pursuit of wealth and status. She was a new version of herself, one who understood the value of hard work, humility, and, most importantly, love. One afternoon, Lisa came to me with a look of determination in her eyes. "I've been thinking about something," she said. "I've been saving up some money from my job, and I want to use it to help other women who are struggling, just like I was. I want to start a project. Maybe something small to begin with, but I think it's time I gave back." I was taken aback by her words. The idea of Lisa, who had once been so self-absorbed, wanting to help others was more than I could have hoped for. "That's a beautiful idea," I said, my voice full of pride. "You're starting to understand, Lisa. This is what it means to truly give back, to help others with what you've learned." She smiled, a genuine, peaceful smile that I hadn't seen in years. "I want to make sure no one has to go through what I went through. I don't want anyone to feel like they're alone or that they have to sell everything to start over." I nodded, feeling a deep sense of gratitude. "You're on the right path, and I'll help you however I can." It wasn't long before Lisa took her first steps toward turning her idea into reality. She started volunteering more at the shelter, helping women who had fallen on hard times. And slowly, her project began to take shape. She used the money she had saved up to fund a small initiative that provided support for women trying to escape abusive relationships or financial struggles.
Watching her work, I realized something important. Lisa wasn't just trying to make up for what she had done. She was changing the trajectory of her life. She was turning the pain of the past into something that could help others. And in doing so, she was healing herself. A few months later, we stood in front of the beach house together. Lisa had insisted on coming with me to check on things. And as we walked through the door, I felt a sense of peace settle over me. The house, once a symbol of betrayal, now felt like a place of new beginnings. Lisa turned to me, her face full of emotion. "I know I've said this before, but I really mean it this time. Thank you for everything, Mom. For giving me the space to learn, for letting me make my mistakes and not giving up on me." I smiled, feeling a tear slip down my cheek. "I never gave up on you, Lisa. I just wanted you to find your own way, and I'm so proud of you for doing it." She hugged me tightly, and for the first time in a long time, I felt the weight of the years of tension and hurt lifting. We had come full circle. The pain of the past had been transformed into something new, something healing. That evening, as we sat on the porch together, the stars shining overhead, I realized that in some ways we were both finally free. Lisa had found her redemption, and so had I. The house, the money, the betrayal, those were just things. What truly mattered was the bond we had forged again, stronger than it had ever been before. And as I looked at Lisa, sitting beside me, I knew that we are both ready to start the next chapter of our lives together.